is, what have you learned the most about the culture over the years? What do you think your fans all have in common?
You know, I'm not really sure how to answer this question because at the risk of sounding horrendously egotistical, like I just write music that I like and I'm just like, well, this is what we're doing. And, you know, I really only think about it in terms of the what we have done in the past. Like, I like all kinds of music. That said, I'm not going to make an Exhumed album that sounds like, you know, jazz funk, because that would be inappropriate. Because we've done multiple records of sort of death, grind, whatever you want to call it. I don't know, you know, sometimes our fans really surprise me and I'm like, I don't get where you're coming from at all, but I'm glad you're here. And then other times I meet people who are fans of the band who are like, wow, if you lived in the same town, like you'd be my best friend, you know? So I try not to make broad generalizations. I mean, hopefully, you know, hopefully people enjoy the music and they get something out of it, and you know, we try to write music that works on multiple levels. Some people maybe not care about the lyrics, some people might like the lyrics, some people might like the music but not the lyrics or whatever, and you know, so hopefully there's a range of experiences people have with it, but ultimately we just, you know, we just make records that we would like and then worry about the rest later, you know. If we go on tour and nobody showed up, we'd be like, oh fuck, maybe we screwed up.
This is a good one. So how has this style of music made a significant positive impact on your life today?
I mean, it's, you know, being involved with this scene or community or movement or whatever the fuck you want to call it. I mean, it really has defined so many aspects of my life, you know. I have met so many of my, you know, the overwhelming majority of my close friends through playing this music, you know. My wife, lots of ex-girlfriends. You know, I wouldn't have met so many of these people without playing music, and it's afforded me, you know, I've been very fortunate in that, you know, the band has achieved whatever level of success that we have. You know, I've gotten to do a lot of things a lot of people haven't done. You know, I've been to Japan, I've been to Iceland, I've been to South America, I've been to wherever, you know. So it's kind of enabled me to learn more about the world in general, and you know, also just connect with cool people everywhere I go. You know, everywhere we go, you know, it seems like we meet people that make me feel like, oh, this I made the right choice, like continuing to do this, because I'm glad to be here. These people are glad I'm here. I'm glad they're here. Like, we're having a good time, and you know, one of the greatest things about it, again, as somebody in their 40s now, like, a lot of people that I knew from back in the day and in high school and stuff, their lives are very different than mine. And I think one of the things that's really tough as an adult is to, you know, maintain friendships, because you got a career, you got a house, you got a kid, you got a dog, blah, 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 you know, you got a sick uncle or whatever the fuck. And it's not that, you know, we don't have some of those things going on in our lives, but we're sort of forced to carve out this time where it's like, okay, it's just me and 5 of my friends, and we're going to be in a van for 4 weeks, and we get to hang out every day. We get to go to the bar if we want to every night, and these are just opportunities to really like maintain those friendships and those connections. And you know, I have friends all over the place. You know, it's like Baltimore, Philly, New York. Like, it was like a fucking reunion every night. Like, oh my God, how you been? Especially after the pandemic. So those personal connections end up being kind of just as important as the enjoyment of the music and sort of the belief in what we're doing with our music, you know. So it's been super enriching, you know.
Perfect answer.
Oh, thanks.
That one in specific, everybody's like kind of, you know what I mean? But you answered it good, because like, a lot of people, I don't know, they're just like, you know, it's, you know, it gets my aggression. I'm like, oh.
Well, sure, that too, but you know.
But at the same time, it's like, people don't think about the bigger picture.
Sure.
You know, like, you've been around for your band has been around for years, so I mean, you know, like what it takes, really.
I hope so. I think we're figuring it out. It's a work in progress.
All right. So this one could be a tricky one.
Uh-oh.
Four more. What advice could you give to someone who's trying to do what you've done with music but has no idea how to do it? And I mean that with, has never played an instrument, has never thought about it, but, you know, sees what you're doing, it's like, that could be me.
I mean, you know, for somebody that wants to get started in the scene now, I think, you know, you're very fortunate in the internet age because there's a lot more resources around about sort of what it takes to be in a band. There's a lot more knowledge about how the industry works. There's a lot more knowledge as far as like just instrumental tutorials and stuff. You know, you could be on YouTube and, you know, you could spend a year on YouTube, either come out like a killer guitar player, or like a crazy, like flat earth person, but hopefully it's the former, you know. I think that the main thing is that if you want to do something, don't wait around, you know. If you're interested in whatever it is, whether it's fucking interpretive dance or pottery or I don't know what the fuck people are into, but if you want to do something, do it and figure it out as you go, because, you know, if you wait until you're like, well, I don't want to do it until everything's perfect, then you can always find a reason why something's not perfect. So I think the act of putting yourself and your work out there is the most important, even if it's, you know, it's rudimentary or it's flawed or whatever. It's like, that's how you're going to learn. And just the act of doing is the most important thing, because so many, especially, you know, underground metal records that are classics are sort of musically inept. You know, they got bad production, you know, and these are records I love. I'm not trashing. These are records that like define me as a guy, like, you know, the first Sodom EP or Welcome to Hell, Recapitrefaction. These are not like musical masterpieces. These are teenagers fucking making a lot of noise. And as long as the energy and the sincerity is there, if you stick with it, the rest will sort of come. So just, you know, just fucking do it and, you know, take advantage of, like I said, there's so many more tools than when we were starting out in the early 90s. You know, there's so many more tools now. So take advantage of it. And, you know, people like me, we love to talk about this shit. You know, God knows my fucking wife and my coworkers don't want to hear about it. So it's like, you know, try to pick people's brain in a way that's respectful and you know, just be yourself and stick to your guns and work hard. And, you know, then at the very least, even if nothing happens or you don't become, you know, you don't realize your ambition for your career, you'll have the knowledge that you did something for yourself that was real, and that's something nobody can take away.
Dude, it's crazy the amount of like prodigy. There's two guitarists I grew up with that literally were like seeing Big Malmsteen. Like, swear to God, they could sweep pick after 2 weeks of watching a YouTube video.
Wow.
And they quit. And it just goes to show you, like, especially in metal, like, you don't need to be trained by the books. And you can do a lot of shit through the internet.
Right.
You know? As long as you have in my opinion, if you have an ear with music, you can do anything.
Well, I think, yeah, I mean, that's really the most important thing, because your ear is going to define your own style. And, you know, you can take a little kid and fill him up with music theory and teach him how to play Mozart or whatever. And, you know, he could be amazing, but he also might fucking hate music by the time he's 13, because he's so sick of, like, oh, our friends are coming over, go play for Elise on a fucking piano. He's like, oh, you know, that sucks. So it's just, if you have the enthusiasm for it and you have your own passion for it, you'll find the rest. You can sort out the rest, you know?
It's crazy. So, like, I was always trying to, like, my family always tried to push me into the school music shit.
Okay.
And I'm like, no way. I'm not doing that. I found a drummer, like, in my, I was like 19, 17.
Okay.
I started making music, and I got more out of that than being in a school band, because I was practicing so much.
Right.
Versus the school band kids, a lot of them always don't get emotional.
And you're playing stuff that you don't care about, and you're learning stuff that that's not applicable, and so yeah, it's gonna be a waste, you know.
All right.
Oh no.
Okay. Memorable road stories. I've heard some bad ones. Some bad ones. Some people say they can't even answer this question because the stuff's so bad. What's one that isn't bad enough?
Let's see. I've had a couple pretty foolish incidents. One that sticks out, we were playing a festival in Guadalajara, and you know, I had my bullet belt and my sweatbands and stuff in my guitar case, whatever. And you know, they're not live bullets. I'm not, you know. But we get there, and I get pulled aside in the line, and like, oh, what's up with this belt, this and that, and I was like, they're just fake, and I speak very little Spanish. I mean, mostly I know how to talk about food. You know, I live in California, so that's like my extent. Sin frijoles or con frijoles or whatever. Anyway, so I'm trying to tell these guys that they're not real bullets, they're replica, you know. And then I was just like, you know what, just take them. You can confiscate them, you can throw them away. Like, it doesn't matter, I can just buy another one at home. It's no biggie. And finally, they're like, well, you're gonna have to spend the night in jail, but you'll get out by like 9 a.m. because this caliber of bullet is illegal for anyone that's not the police to possess in the whatever state Guadalajara's in. I was like, all right, okay, so fuck, we go to jail. And also full credit to the people that were running the festival. They were awesome. They sent somebody down to the jail. They brought me, he's like, here's some food, like here's, you know, a couple Coca-Colas or whatever. And, you know, they were really, really cool. And so I got up, of course, you know, once you're in the holding cell, it's just like a drunk tank holding cell. It wasn't like jail. But my main concern, I was like, well, I don't know who I'm gonna be in here with, you know what I mean? Like, is this I don't know much about the neighborhood. Is it dangerous? Is it safe? But just two drunk dudes. They were totally cool. I gave them some like candy bars or whatever. I was like, here you go, bud. And you know, we all just sort of slept it off. And the morning came, and I was like, I don't know what time it is, but the time's really passing here. And they pull me out finally, and then I guess it's like 11. I was like, okay, cool. And they had me fill out all this shit, sign all this stuff, you know, they're like, this is your passport? Yeah, that's my passport. This is your ID. Okay, cool. And then I'm thinking like, all right, that's it. And they're like, okay, now go back down and wait. I was like, wait for what? Why? And then they pull me up again, and by now it's like 3 in the afternoon, and you know, this is a big festival, like Priest is the headliner, so we're playing at like, you know, 5:30 in the afternoon. And so they pull me up again at like 3, and I've got our agent on the phone from LA, and he's like, hey, so the band is freaking out, like, what do you want them to do? We don't know. Apparently, you know, because I don't speak Spanish well enough, they told the promoter that the problem is that they're waiting for a translator. Because I don't speak Spanish, legally they have to have a translator come. And there was a bunch of stuff, like on the way to the jail, they took me to a doctor, and I was like, why am I here? And the doctor's like, did they beat you? I was like, no, like what the fuck is going on? It's like, okay, cool, sign this. I was like, all right, they didn't beat me. So it's just a bunch of weird hoops to go through. Anyway, so it's 3 o'clock, and he's like, well, you guys are supposed to play in like 2 hours. What do you want the band to do? I was like, fucking play, like just play without me, because if we don't play, like they're, you know, they might not pay us because we didn't fulfill, that's how it works, you know? So I was like, I'll do my best to get there, but, you know, just have them play without me. And then finally, like by the time we're supposed to go on stage, the translator finally gets to the jail. And the translator is like, this is fucking stupid. Like, these bullets are fake. They know the bullets are fake, but because it's the weekend, I'm the only translator working. And there was another thing that I had to do, like at the Capitol building, which was across town, and traffic. And he's like, yeah, all right, just sign this. They talk to each other, blah, blah, blah. I finally got out, and then the next thing I was like, so do I have to pay a fine? Am I gonna be allowed back in the country? Do I have a criminal record? And he's like, no, you're all good. It's all good. And so I finally get to the festival, and the band has just finished playing without me like 10 minutes beforehand. And I remember I was coming in, and I was very hungry because I ate the night before, and they give you like a little bimbo like pastry wrap or whatever. That's all I ate all day. And I was going in the catering tent, and the lady was like, "Oh, you need credentials, this and that." And my friend, of course, word has gone out amongst everybody I know. And my friend Ben, that used to play guitar for Carcass, happened to see me, and he's like, "Right, this man's been in jail all day. He just wants some food, mate. Give him some food." And he sort of berated the woman. She's like, "Okay, all right, just come in and get some fucking food." Anyway, so that was one particular nightmare. That is, that doesn't reflect too badly on me as a person being a shithead. So.
That's a good road story. That's like spending a night in jail. I mean, that's why I'm kind of hesitant of going overseas, because if anything happens, like Randy Blythe, I don't know if you know about his story, about how...
Oh, yeah, no, that's crazy with that. That was wild.
Kicking.
And I thought he handled that really fucking well. I was, like, really impressed. I was like,
he did, but
props.
The problem was he was in jail because of the same reason. He was stuck down there, and they had translation issues, so...
Right, and then you have to get because while I was in jail, first my thought was, I was going to change my strings before the gig. I'm like, am I going to have enough time to change my strings? Then I was like, am I going to be able to play? And then I was like, am I going to be able to get out? Am I going to be able to make my flight the next day? And I was thinking like, okay, so if I can't make my flight, what do I do? Like, what's my game plan? You know what I mean? Like, so you're just sort of going through these scenarios in your head as you're sitting there, like, who do I fucking call? Because they're not going to let me just sit there and, like, call a million people. Like, do I call my mom because my uncle's a lawyer and she can get in touch with him? Or do I call the embassy? I don't know. It didn't come to any of that, but you start, once the time kept rolling on, because they're like, "Oh, you'll be out by 9." I was like, bro, it's like fucking a lot later than 9, man. So, yeah, but it turned out okay.
Shit. Wow. All right. Last two is, what do you think is the most rewarding part about doing things DIY?
The most what?
Rewarding.
I mean, being a DIY band, as a DIY band, it's really a double-edged sword, I think growing up, especially in the late 80s, when heavier metal was really kind of breaking through to the mainstream with like Metallica and Slayer, Testament, et cetera, everybody was always like, "Oh, don't ever sell out." And I think when I was a little kid, I thought, once you signed to a record label, there's going to be a guy in a suit being like, "Okay, guys, we need to talk about your musical direction," which has never happened. So that was a totally wrong worry. But being a DIY band, I think the main thing that people, including myself when I was younger, don't understand is that it really is a lot of work. And I'm not saying like you should feel bad for me because I have to like go after my regular day job and then spend my time packing mail or doing band business or whatever. Nobody asked me to start a fucking band. This is on me. But at the same time, you do have to sort of recognize that if you want to keep doing this and you want to be able to sustain doing this, this isn't the kind of music where even if you become a signed known band, it's not like all of a sudden you're like, "Well, cool, I guess I'll just buy a Maserati and like fuck off," It's a very working class kind of ethic that defines the underground, and you're going to be doing work, and a lot of it's fucking boring, like, as much as I'm really happy that people order stuff from our web store and everything else, I don't sit there like packing envelopes feeling like I'm so lucky to be packing this envelope. We have our own screen printing shop in our studio. We print, about 50% of the merchandise we take on tour. We print a lot of the merchandise that we sell on our web store. So, and we own, obviously, not just our instruments, but like our van, our trailer, and all these things, especially in the internet age, like back before the internet kind of took over everything, you could kind of ask your label for more money and be like, "Oh, we're a young band. Can you throw us some money so we can get a van, so we can get on the road, so we can build the band?" And because album sales, they're just not there. The streaming money is just, everything's sort of scaled back. So you can't just be like, "Hey, you just signed us. Would you like to invest $20,000 in the next 3 years of our career and see what happens?" That's not really as much of a thing anymore. And so it really is a lot of responsibility, and That's why I think it's important, you know, that bands communicate with each other and talk to each other about this stuff. Not just about like, hey man, did you hear that new album? Or hey man, I got this cool guitar effect, check it out. You know, bands should be talking about like, hey, how did you balance your budget? Like, how much is this agent charging versus how much is our agent charging? Because the more you know, the better job you're going to be able to do managing your own band. And especially on an underground level, you know, for somebody to step in and be like, cool, I'll manage you guys, and then take 10% of your money when, you know, this is a very kind of thin margin business. You know, 10% is not nothing, you know? So, you know, you need to be wary, and you need to be smart, and you need to just, like I said, I think the more that bands communicate about this stuff together, about what they're doing and how it's working for them, the better it's going to be for everybody. And there are a lot more resources now than there were, you know, when I was starting to do this as a high school kid. So it is really rewarding, but it's very time consuming, and sometimes it's tedious. And, you know, sometimes I'm like, man, isn't that guy in the suit just going to come on and be like, make a record that sounds like this, boys, and straight to the top. Don't worry about anything. You know, that's more appealing now maybe than it was when I was a kid. But, you know, it is a lot of fucking work, and it's something where it's one thing to love the music, and there's a lot of people that love the music, and then they realize what touring really is, and they realize what the business really is, and they look at the numbers and they're like, fuck this. Like, you know, I've known tons of great guitar players and just great musicians in general who are like, yeah, this is a dumb business to be in. And it's like, well, objectively, you are correct. This is a dumb business to be in. But, you know, I'm very happy to still be doing it. I don't want to talk anybody out of it. I'm just trying to be fucking frank, you know?